Alright, the exhaust is finally out of the way. On the driver's side, I couldn't get that small pipe out of there. I must have just tightened her down too tight. Such is life. That's alright. It's not in the way, so we're good to keep moving forward. So, like I said, most people wouldn't mention anything about these for the active exhaust, but in order to pull the exhaust out and drop it properly, you don't have a choice. You got to disconnect those. So one thing I didn't mention, when I went to disconnect these, I thought, man, probably a smart move to disconnect the battery. So I just went ahead and disconnected the battery before I removed those. So just heads up. So right now we're disconnected, and we're gonna start on, I think, these two bolts back here. I believe they're 21s, but that one's way up in there. So hopefully I can get my tool in there, a ratchet. But those are 21s, and I believe these look smaller here, so I don't know what size those are, but I'll let you know here shortly once I get a wrench on them. Alright, so just trying to block some light. This is the drive shaft right here. This is where it's connected. These are T50 bolts. Hex bolt, I believe, or something like that. Somebody can comment and tell me what they are exactly. Hex bolts, hex head, I don't know, but either way. So those got to come out, and then I did figure out that these two hangers here on the underneath of the differential, these two bolts there are 15s. So 15 millimeters. Well, of course, I thought once all the drive shaft bolts were loosened that the drive shaft was just going to drop down and out, but I've actually wrenched on it a little bit and it doesn't seem to be budging. So I'm gonna start loosening the 15s here, and we'll see if that will bring it down. Before I do that, though, I got the jack to throw in place, and I created this guy, this little board here, to give it a little more girth. So I'll show you how that's gonna work. So board, jack, get it in place, release the doves. Drive shaft just stuck in place. This is loose. Drive shaft starts here. This is part of the differential. Drive shaft all the way back. This will not come out. WD-40. Gonna try something. Well, everybody, it is the following day, and the reason that it is the following day and I didn't complete the job last night is because of this guy right here. I removed all those bolts, and then do you see the level of rust that is on that? That would not move, would not budge. I could do nothing to get that off. So I ended up basically taking that X pipe back off. So the X pipe is right there. There's the shield. Now we're down to this level. Drop the drive shaft down. So once I had the drive shaft down, there was actually a little wiggle room So I could basically just reef on this thing to get it to pop loose. And I kept hammering it with a rubber mallet, and it moved just a touch, I mean, just the slightest little bit. Sprayed it with penetrating oil, WD-40, waited about 5 minutes, reefed on it some more, still did not budge, did not move. Finally, you know, I'll be honest, I've been fighting with this thing for at least 2, maybe almost 3 hours. But it is finally loose, and we are moving on. But if you do decide to do it yourself, remember, it's not easy. Alright, so next steps are to remove these two. I already got one off. They're at the front of the differential. So basically, they got this rubber-ish washer on both sides. It looks like there's one up top, if you can see that. So just releasing it now. The other 2 bolts for the differential are in the back here. I did have this makeshift board made up, or I made it up. Basically cut a few boards in half and left the long board to go all the way across, which is currently holding that up. Let me see if I can take a look at those bolts for you. The 2 bolts in the back are 21 millimeters. So as you can see, I got them started, and this is the tool. Three beers later. Well, as you guys can see, she's loose there, she's loose there. I already took the 2 in the front, are already off, and it's sitting on the board right now. So now what we do is we are going to lower it down slowly and see if we can get the right angle to pop the drive shafts, or the what do they call those now? Pop these up. Okay, we're like 4 hours, maybe a little more into this install, but guess what? The old diff is out of the vehicle. Can you tell which one is the new one? So the key is we got to transfer this guy over to this guy, and then reverse everything we've done today. Oh, and yesterday. One thing I just noticed is that some things that people have been mentioning is I don't have a 3.07. The original one was a 3.08, even though my paperwork definitely says 3.07. Looking at my build sheet, it says 3.07 conventional, and what we had was a 3.08 open diff. Made a little adjustment to my little makeshift differential stand. Added just a cross board there, so put the front edge up on that, and then get her on the jack, and we'll get her in place. Looking good. That is on the jack. Okay, so it's been some time and I've had some issues. I'll go into detail at the end of this video. I know I saw a video I believe it was Donnie RT that had punctured one of his sides, or maybe both of them. I don't know, when he was getting the axles in and out. So I will explain exactly what I've been through, like I said, at the end of this video, just going over the details. But right now, got both sides into the new axle, or new axle. Got both sides into the new differential, and got that up. So we got to get that connected. So, and you are supposed to use thread lock on those bolts. So I'll use thread lock on those. I think I'm going to try to put it in place before I connect the drive shaft. So I'm going to do that next. I'm going to get it up into place up here, and then I will mess with the drive shaft once it's mounted in place where it needs to be. Okay, she's back in place. Can barely see that one, but next is going to be connecting that guy. I cleaned the bolts a little bit, got all the big chunks off for the old thread lock, and here's the replacement thread lock. Well, the pumpkin's back in place. Drive shaft's attached. Once the diff's installed and everything's locked up tight, you know, as far as the bolts, then you gotta add the oil. So the top 5/16 hex is the fill. This bottom one would be the drain if this wasn't brand new and you were just doing a change. Basically all I did was take out the top one. I made a nice huge mess, but it got the job done. I used the Moby 1 75W-90 and the additive that I talked about. You put the entire bottle of that in, so did that and used a oil pump, as you can see, and pumped it in there, and then you basically pump in the entire bottle of this, and then you start pumping in the Moby 1 or whatever brand you want to get, I guess. This one has synthetic gear lubricant, but I think it has the limited slip friction modifier, whatever. But either way, I saw in somebody's post that they were having an issue with noise, knocking noise or grinding noise or something, so they needed that additive to get rid of that noise. So I just went ahead and just did the additive right off the bat, just to not fight the battle. So next step, throw the exhaust back in.